It is a fantastic time to be a Jurassic Park or a Jurassic World fan. We recently just got a sequel to the fan favorite Jurassic World Evolution, and even more recently, we finally got a trailer for Jurassic World Dominion, what looks to be the final chapter of this Jurassic World trilogy. So with all of this dinosaur hype, I thought it would be a cool idea to go back once again into my personal history and talk about some of my favorite memories with dinosaurs and the Jurassic franchise. So in today's video, I'm going over my early memories with dinosaurs as a concept, not like literal dinosaur. It was a weird sentence, I'll admit, it was a little strange.
Stars and Stripes!
Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another, I mean the 94th. Now, if you've been keeping up with the Carrot lore, you know that I made a new friend recently in my coworker Rudra, and I don't know if he's seen the new trailer for Jurassic World Dominion, but I should be getting a call from him today, and I can't wait to talk to him about the new movie. And in general, it's been really cool to see the rebirth and the changes to the Jurassic franchise over the last couple of years. I mean, more people are talking about Jurassic World and Jurassic Park than ever. It's a blockbuster franchise again. Now, in today's early memories video, I am going to be talking about my general memories with dinosaurs. As a kid growing up, I was obsessed with them in pretty much any form. However, as I'm sure you can imagine, a lot of these memories are going to be Jurassic Park and Jurassic World related. But not all of them are Jurassic Park related, so that's why I named the video, Dinosaur Memories General. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, and even though I'm thirsty and would like something to drink, let's get into my early memories with dinosaurs. Growing up, I loved, and still to this day, I absolutely adore Jurassic Park 1993. It's one of my go-to favorite movies ever made, and it never disappoints upon rewatches. Growing up, my dad bought a Laserdisc player because he thought it would be the future of media. And don't worry, we'll talk about Laserdiscs in the future. But basically, all you need to know is that it's a giant DVD, essentially. Or a giant MP4, what do the kids call it? A giant tweet. Does that make sense? Anyway, on this Laserdisc player, I watched two movies on repeat, and those two movies were Mortal Kombat and Jurassic Park. Watching Jurassic Park and looking at the extremely large box art of the Laserdisc case was always such a trip for me. It's hard to explain, but when I would watch the original movie, it felt like I was actually visiting the park. And that's really interesting to me, because the things about the movie that captured my attention weren't the scenes when people were running from their lives from dinosaurs. Instead, the things that stuck out to me were the details of the fictional park. The tour of the park was always in my head, and I always remember paying special attention during those scenes. Mr. DNA especially was such a cool element of the movie to me, and it really only occurred to me when writing this video that I was so interested in the fake park. In addition to the movie itself, I also have this very vivid memory of looking through a Jurassic Park picture book in the playground of my kindergarten. And I remember meeting one of my very first friends who actually had the same name as me while looking at this book. Glancing upward from my Jurassic Park picture book was how I made one of my very first friends. And I think that's really sweet, and I think it's a fun memory. On a side note, for over a decade now, I've had this theory about yard sales. My theory goes that at any given yard sale, flea market, or thrift store, there must always be a copy of Jurassic Park on VHS. Now, typically this will be the first Jurassic Park, but any Jurassic Park will do. So oftentimes, whenever I go to a yard sale or a thrift store, the first thing I look for is a copy of Jurassic Park. And I have a pretty decent collection of Jurassic Park VHS tapes now. Specifically, I have an overwhelming number of copies of The Lost World. Part of the reason why I made this observation, and I've been collecting so many Jurassic Park VHS tapes to begin with, was that certain versions of the original Jurassic Park VHS tape came with a collector's edition poster. And I'm still looking for that poster to this day. And I know I can just find it on eBay, but I want to find it out in the wild, which I should be able to do eventually because, again, according to my law that I founded, at every yard sale, there must be a Jurassic Park VHS tape. However, I have been out of the yard sale scene for quite some time now because of COVID, so I'm curious if the universal constant no longer applies. So let me know how the yard sales are going in the comments below. The Lost World Jurassic Park is the confusingly named sequel of the 1993 blockbuster classic. Now, I grew up and lived the majority of my life in New York City. That meant that I had the opportunity to go to certain events that were only happening in the Big Apple. One of those events was a promotion for The Lost World, where kids could come to the famous Museum of Natural History and celebrate the release of the movie. They could even stay in the museum overnight. This was a huge deal, especially since the Museum of Natural History was my favorite museum in New York. So needless to say, this visit was extraordinary. That is, if I could remember it at all. Yeah, so my dad often told me that he took me to this event, but for whatever reason, I cannot remember attending something like this. And you'd think that this would stick out in my mind, right? I went to the Museum of Natural History a lot when I was a kid, so it's possible that the trip just blurred together with other trips that I had, but I really feel like I would have remembered this considering my obsession with the franchise at the time. So I actually tried researching this event to see if there was any truth to my dad's story, and I found some information. Thanks to this article, I know that the Museum of Natural History definitely had an event that coincided with the release of the Lost World Jurassic Park. In addition, to my surprise, the museum does still have events where children can sleep over overnight, and they were still doing these events up until the COVID restrictions of 2020. However, I wasn't able to find any connection between these two events. So did I go to a Lost World Jurassic Park sleepover event at the Museum of Natural History? I'm honestly not sure. But I would like to thank you all for allowing me to waste your time with Memory Quest 2022, I guess. Now, the first Jurassic Park was a big hit, which meant that when the sequel came out, the studio wanted to capitalize on their young fans with as much merchandise as possible. And I certainly saw a lot of that merchandise. My favorite was a racetrack specifically made for the Lost World Jurassic Park. I loved those magnetic racetracks when I was a kid, and having one that was Jurassic Park flavored was awesome. But the movie captivated my attention more than the toy line did. Now, it's possible that the reason why I watched The Lost World more than I watched the original Jurassic Park when I was a kid was because my family bought a VHS of The Lost World, whereas Jurassic Park was on Laserdisc and we didn't have the player anymore. And so after we got rid of our Laserdisc player, I only had one Jurassic Park movie that I could watch. But I watched the sequel regularly. I even have my name written on the box because I apparently wanted to bring it into school one day. And given my age at the time, I'm almost positive there was no teacher willing to play this film for the class. But how awesome would it be if I got to watch The Lost World with my class when I was a kid? That would be dope. The Lost World was so influential for me and my imagination, and it shaped my toy time for years. You see, there's a scene in the movie where a bus is hung off a cliff and people have to hang onto a rope not to fall. Well, for whatever reason, that scene really stuck out in my mind, so I replicated it many times with my toys and my Hess trucks. I mean, seriously, my toys couldn't catch a break. Like, every day, if they were driving a motor vehicle, they'd have to be dangled from my steps. And those toys were in real danger of falling and being destroyed forever. So yeah, this movie will forever hold a place in my heart because of how much that scene permeated my playtime. The last thing to note about Jurassic Park 2 is that somewhere between the release of the second and the third movie, I learned a lot about film production. Jaws was my favorite movie after the age of 6, and becoming obsessed with that film taught me a lot about filmmaking and introduced me to my first favorite director, Steven Spielberg. Or as I used to call him, Steven Spielsbergs. I don't know why I would add S's to everything. I still do that to this day. I gotta stop. Animal Crossings? Why? There's no S at the end of Animal Crossing. Come on, Carrot. Anyway, when I found out what other films Spielberg had directed and that Jurassic Park was in his catalog, I loved the films even more. I watched a lot of black and white films when I was a kid, which meant that I was frequently watching horror films and sci-fi films from the beginning of cinema. And a lot of those movies were some of the cheesiest films ever made, but I absolutely loved them. Anyway, when I learned why Spielberg named Jurassic Park 2 The Lost World, I was even more enthralled with his filmmaking. I thought it was such a cool idea to have a modern film be so referential to film history. And so there were a lot of reasons for me to love The Lost World Jurassic Park when I was growing up. Now, while those were significant memories for me growing up, it wasn't until, Rudra's calling me. Give me 1 second. Hello?
Hello, Carrot Boy. This is Rudra calling once again on behalf of Juniper Technologies. But actually, this is not work Rudra. Instead, this is friend Rudra. So what's up? Are you talking about superheroes and comic books again?
Well, I'm not talking about superheroes today. I'm actually talking about dinosaurs.
Oh, I see. Well, I'll be going then.
Wait. I thought you said you wanted to talk.
Yes, I did, but I do not want to talk about dinosaurs. Let me know when it's superhero time again. Peace.
Whoa, Rudra, wait a second. Why don't you want to talk about dinosaurs?
Very simple. I do not like dinosaurs. I'm sorry about that, my guy.
All right, well, I guess that makes sense. Okay, I'll talk to you later then.
Talk to you later, Carrot Boy.
All right, well, to each their own, but I feel like that was like a little rude, right? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just me. Now, this is a saga that you've already heard about and you'll probably hear more about in the future. But I have dyslexia, which is a reading and comprehension disability, and growing up, it was really difficult before my diagnosis for me to navigate as a kid in school. I loved books growing up, and I wanted to read them more than anything, but I hated myself for not being able to read like other kids could, and it also really upset me that I felt like I was letting everyone down by not knowing how to read yet. Anyway, in grade school, we would visit our library once a week, and we'd have to check out one book every time we would visit. This was really difficult for me, but I always found myself myself gravitating towards the box of books with the best covers. Go figure, right? This is primarily where I was introduced to the Goosebumps books, by the way. I absolutely loved checking out Goosebumps books for the cover and then just looking at the cover for the next week. Anyway, I eventually discovered that my school library also had magazines. And to my absolute joy, I discovered that they had a number of dinosaur magazines. This magazine, simply titled Dinosaurs, was my everything in school. I would look forward to checking one of these out every week. I'd flip through them during class, and they'd keep me entertained when my dad would take me to places I didn't want to go. My dad was a musician, so growing up we went to a lot of studios for recording sessions or for jam sessions. This meant that I had a lot of time to just sit around and do nothing after school, and having these dinosaur magazines transported me to a completely different universe. It's crazy how a lot of my memories during this time I contextualized by these pictures of fictional dinosaurs. I mean, these books really brought me to another world, and I always appreciated that. Anyway, flash forward over 10 years later, I've been looking for this magazine, or what I thought were books, for years. I didn't know what they were called, but I really wanted to connect with this piece of nostalgia from my childhood. Lucky for me, when I started interacting more with the Jurassic fan base and the dinosaur communities that exist online, I saw someone post a familiar cover. And so I messaged them quickly, and after years, I finally knew what these books were called. And to my surprise, they weren't books, they were issues of a magazine simply called Dinosaurs. Shortly after that, I went on eBay looking for back issues, and I have a very small collection, but a collection I appreciate very much. This magazine is a big part of my childhood. It's a big part of why I like dinosaurs so much, and I'm really happy that I was finally able to discover what I was looking for all those years, because it genuinely feels like a piece of me that was missing has finally returned. And yes, I'm talking about a silly children's dinosaur magazine. That's just how it happens sometimes. Now, checking out dinosaur books from my school library wasn't the end of my dinosaur book obsession. There was a local library walking distance from my childhood home that I would rent movies and books from regularly. Often when I would visit the library, I would pull out a stack of educational dinosaur books and just look at the pictures. I was deeply captivated by these fantastical drawings of dinosaurs, and I don't think I'm the only dinosaur fan who found a lot of their passion for these creatures through these books growing up. I see the passion for these illustrations expressed pretty regularly when it comes to the dinosaur community. And I wasn't just exposed to dinosaur books. Some of the first comic books I ever purchased were Jurassic Park comic books. I still have some of the original books that I bought back in the day. I mean, there's some really cool dinosaur art in here. I remember buying this Jurassic Park comic book off of the spinner rack from a bodega down the street from my childhood house, along with multiple Godzilla comic books and a particularly gory Predator comic. A truly awesome stack of comics for a kid, if I do say so myself. But yeah, I really love these 90s Jurassic Park comics, and I'm trying to collect a complete set. I also had a habit of renting out dinosaur movies. Growing up, I was really into retro horror and science fiction, and so frequently I would rent movies like The Invisible Man, Frankenstein, and my most rented 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. However, I would also rent movies featuring stop-motion dinosaurs whenever they were available. Thinking back, it's so interesting to me that I went from watching Jurassic Park to watching black and white stop-motion films, and I was still entertained by both. It didn't matter to me that one movie featured some of the most sophisticated visual effects of the time, and that the other featured visual effects that were as primitive as you could get. Effects that I would eventually attempt to mimic in some of my first home videos, when I would animate my own stop-motion dinosaur movies. Now, my stop-motion movies definitely had a lot of other influences, but again, thinking back, it's hard to deny that I might have been influenced by these movies, because I would literally make stop-motion dinosaurs eat claymation people. You know, essentially the peak of my artistic endeavors. Now, at this moment in my life, I was at a point when, oh, hey, Carrot Slurps, can you do me a favor and just grab me a soda from the fridge really quick?
I would, but I'm still resting.
What do you... Dude, you've just been sleeping on my couch for like almost 2 months straight.
Well, you try navigating the time tides for years, and we'll see how you feel after.
Oh my good. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was pushing your buttons. I'm sorry. Do you want to sit down and talk about dinosaurs with me? Why does nobody want to talk about dinosaurs with me? They're really cool. I don't understand. Although maybe there was more to that specific scenario than I'm giving it credit for. I don't know. Anyway. Now, there's not much for me to say about Jurassic Park 3, other than I absolutely loved it when I was a kid. I remember seeing it in theaters, and I still have this very distinct memory of running to the bathroom during the scene where the eggs are being exchanged. I remember not wanting to miss a minute of the film, but I really had to use the bathroom. And so I decided to run to the bathroom as if I was running from raptors. And you better believe I ran like my life depended on it. But still, I did manage to miss like, what, a minute of screen time? And I remember coming back to the theater and trying to figure out what I had missed. So now whenever I watch Jurassic Park 3, I still have that very distinct but young memory of me running to the bathroom and trying to get back as soon as I could. I also remember getting the movie as a present on Christmas and being excited to watch that scene that I had missed because I went to the bathroom. But something else that I remember very vividly before the film came out was that I watched a news broadcast talking about how it was the first Jurassic Park film not directed by Steven Spielberg. And I was floored. As like a 9-year-old, I was mortified that the franchise I loved could be ruined by a bad director. In my head, I was questioning how they could even attempt to continue making the franchise without Spielberg. This is a very distinct memory of me looking up at the TV in absolute disbelief and fear that the departure of a director could spell doom for the Jurassic Park franchise that I loved so much. And all I have to say about that memory is, stuff like that is exactly why I am who I am today. I did all my fan freakout stuff really early in my life, so now I'm way more mellow when it comes to big changes to franchises that I love. But even though I was worried about the fate of Jurassic Park 3 and the future of the franchise, I ended up watching the movie and really enjoying it, and I still enjoy it to this day. So yeah, Jurassic Park 3 was an important film for me. So again, maybe we'll go over this in another video someday, but when Jurassic World came out, I was going through what I now refer to as my second childhood. This was a period of my life where I felt true freedom for the first time, and I was expressing myself in completely new ways. Anyway, my friend group at the time knew that I loved Jurassic Park. Something that me and my friends had made a habit of doing at the time was watching all 3 of the Jurassic Park movies in a row. Every year or two before and after the release of Jurassic World, this was something that we would do together. Anyway, while I wasn't against a new Jurassic Park movie, I will admit that I was more apprehensive about Jurassic World than I was about the other films. It was scary to add a new chapter to a series of movies that I knew to be 3 for so long. Now, of course, as you know now, I absolutely love sequels in general. I've embraced the good and bad qualities of the art of making a sequel, and so they're a non-issue to me at this point. What I'm saying is give me more Jurassic Park films, I dare you. Anyway, at the time, I'll admit I was nervous and I wanted to make sure I didn't praise it blindly or hate it unfairly. However, while I enjoyed the majority of the film, when I got to the ending scene where the Indominus Rex is killed, I absolutely bugged out. I understood the fairly simple but poignant metaphor that the movie was trying to convey. Now, it really is a simple scene, but it's crazy how impressed I was by it. How the movie went from a good movie to an awesome movie because of one little thought experiment. And I always appreciate how excited I was when that scene happened, and I figured out what the movie was trying to convey in the theater. Oh, Rudra is calling me again. Okay. Hello?
Hello, Carrot Boy.
Hey, buddy. What's up? How's it going?
Still talking about dinosaurs?
Yeah, I'm still talking about dinosaurs.
I'm out of here.
Are you really gonna hang up?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm just so you know, you don't call back again because I'm gonna be talking about dinosaurs probably for the next hour or the rest of the day.
Thanks for the heads up. No offense, Carrot Boy, I'm just not into dinosaurs and all that. Anyway, goodbye.
All right, buddy. Sorry about that. I'll talk to you later. Gotta plan my whole schedule around not talking about dinosaurs with Rudra. So years go by, and I missed the theatrical release of a new Jurassic World movie. Because, to quote Ian Malcolm, life gets in the way. That's what he said, right? But then COVID hit, and while it was and still is an awful tragedy and a difficult time for everyone's mental health, it also gave those of us quarantining a lot of free time. To keep myself sane during my household's quarantine, we marathoned multiple franchises: Harry Potter, Star Wars, Terminator, and of course, the Jurassic Park and World franchises. It was during this rewatch of the series that I watched Fallen Kingdom for the first time. It's not a perfect film, but it's definitely one that I really enjoy. Anyway, before we move on, huge spoilers for this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. If you're here for the spoilers, let's go. I'd say the only thing I don't enjoy about Fallen Kingdom is the really sad scene where all the dinosaurs die die in the smoke, yeah, I could do without that, thank you very much. But for me, the coolest part of the movie was the fact that this was the first Jurassic Park film that introduced human cloning. As we discussed in the last video, if you're anti-cloned, then Carrot is anti-you. That's just how it works. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of clones. If there's two story tropes that I love and that will get me on board for almost any story, it's clones and time travel. So I was just excited to see a human clone in a movie with a bunch of dinosaur clones. It was pretty cool. So I think I learned something today. I think I learned that very specific people like dinosaurs. I think everybody likes like Jurassic Park and World. It's a safe bet. But only very specific people want to talk about dinosaurs. That's a good lesson, right? I don't know. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. As regular viewers know, I make a variety of content on my channel, and I'm always gonna make the videos that I wanna make. But if you see something you enjoy, make sure to let me know, and I'll try to prioritize that kind of content in the future. If you wanna watch me play video games live, check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/carrotscraps, and all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, are at carrotscraps as well. So I wanna thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Wants to talk about any dinosaurs with the carrot. That's fine. Even though I let everyone sleep on my couch, and I'm sure I do a lot of other things for people that they don't appreciate. Can't give me one dinosaur conversation? That's fine. That's cool. That seems totally fair. Seems totally fair.